365.
So I'm here with Mark Kashman at SharePoint Conference, and
Yeah,
I'm curious. I saw many cool things. What did you pick?
There were a lot of cool things. I don't know if anybody's talked about this yet, but the concept around I have something that is in a PowerPoint document and I want to send it to you in a very targeted way. And so instead of the scenario where I send you my deck and I say to you, oh, go to slide number 23, that's the information you're looking for. Now I can actually go in and create a link that will go directly to that slide. And in the act of sharing, similar to our sharing dialogue, I can mention you with that link that will then directly not only get you to that specific slide, but already give you the permissions that I'm wanting to grant you to look at the deck. So the scenario is I've got a really long 60-slide keynote, and I get back to corporate and somebody says, hey, I heard we announced blah, blah, blah. And I can say to them, yeah, look at the keynote deck, slide number 23. Or I can grab a link from slide 23, send it to them with the @mention permissions, and when they click on the link, it takes them right to the deck, slide 23, and the context is from the click of what I said or what they were asking about, and it keeps that context without somebody going, rrr. And if you can also imagine, that slide might be active content. So if I send you a link to the slide, whether it was 23 or whatever, and somebody is also co-authoring in that environment or real time we're building out our presentation, it'll still take them right to where I want to direct their eyeballs, even if things change. It's just a link to that particular slide.
I really love this feature because this is a thing I do on a daily basis. And I misuse PowerPoint for building sales documents or architectural documents or starting up like a functional requirement document. And of course, presentations. So PowerPoint keeps on being like a very dense way of having a bite-sized way of communicating data to another person. But it always used to be like a three-step process. I have the slide deck, then I have to create the link, then I go to email, and normally I could of course send them just the link, but it always needs a little bit of context. So then I had to go to Outlook, create a new email message, say, well, this is the slide deck I'm working on, do you want to check slide 23? And I had to make sure that they have access to it.
Yep.
And now I can do that. That just is in one simple thing by mentioning the one or multiple people who I want to have feedback on that particular slide.
Exactly, and that's really the whole concept of being able to save everything you just described, which sounds a bit of work to the end user. But really in the flow of what you're trying to accomplish, I want to show you this particular slide and get your feedback. In one motion, you can grant permissions, link directly to that, and the experience on the recipient end is, okay, and then they just provide feedback. And that feedback could be within the PowerPoint comments. So they could mention back to you, hey, Mark, looks great, thanks.
Yeah. These are the perfect examples that I like what Microsoft is doing now. And you're using the correct words like in the flow, in the motion of doing work. And I always talked about like working in a flow, and you can be, it's a mindset, so normally it takes like 30 minutes to an hour to reach a certain matter of concentration, and as soon as you're in it, you can be extremely productive, and you could really like jump from one task to the other, but as soon as you would hit a barrier or have to do something formal or have to think about things like security or that's blocking the creativity and then limited your productivity basically at that point to a big extent.
Yeah, and some people even add in the notion of an @mention, which is pretty common these days, to not even have to think that that is going to give you the access that you need. They might just be thinking, I'm sending a mail with a link. But to ensure that it actually gives them access to what you're linking them to, even if they thought about it or not, is a relief, because imagine if you were to @mention somebody and they get the slide and then it says you don't have any permissions. Request permission is like, that's weird, you know, and then you might abandon at that point.
Yeah, and you can lose a lot of time or important deadlines you could miss or whatever. So it's crucial that this works fluently.
Absolutely, and I would say, just looking at your bling, anything that we can do to keep you in the flow, looking slick, and this is like toned down. This is toned down. I saw him the other night with bling, 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 bling. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. And so actually, I did an interview with Joel Olsen, and we were talking about SharePoint is looking good, and we combined it with fashion. There's the Lookbook, there's people looking good, and the socks. It's all about fashion.
It is all about fashion. I never thought that one day somebody would say, I want my thing to look like SharePoint. And we are hearing that more and more, and the Lookbook is a great example. I was a little impressed because that was actually built by our engineering team. They build the product, no surprise there. But when they came out with the Lookbook and asked us, to get the word out, I was like, we should have done this. We're the marketing team.
Yeah.
But the Lookbook is great, and not only does it look great, it actually, from the feedback I've been hearing, is that people actually look at it and go, that is something that I would like to accomplish, or I didn't know it could do that. So visually, it's very specific in terms of what's the role of a hub site, a communication site, a team site, as much as maybe you and I, because we talk about them all the time, but for an end user who maybe is just given the keys to a new team site, what can I do? How do you work with web parts? How do I work with document libraries, lists, Power Apps and Flow, maybe a little bit further down, but once you get there, and to see it visually and to kind of the art of the possible, I could tell you, you could tell them, they could read about it, but to see it, and for, of course, for it to look as good as it is, Lookbook all the way.
Good stuff. So I will put in the link to the Lookbook. It's very important, and I really think that if people see how beautiful things they can very easily create, it will help them making positive energy. I want to do this thing. I give me that project. I want to build a new HR site or whatever using this stuff. So
absolutely. I mean, if somebody says I want to build a new HR site, and that's being something that they've gotten excited about over from the Lookbook, or I think just hearing you describe it, that's a huge win.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
great having you here.
Thanks.
And, well, great stuff. Thanks for watching.